Hey everybody, what's going on? My name is Jon Solo, and today I want to discuss the new trailer for The Last Jedi. There were several moments throughout the trailer that put me on the edge of my seat, and you can watch my reaction video to verify that. But there is one moment in particular that I've been thinking about an awful lot, the fight between Captain Phasma and Finn. I won't lie to you guys, I'm a little nervous that Finn is gonna die. I know that he's one of the main characters of this trilogy, and if you're evaluating it from a real-world perspective, it's pretty unlikely that Finn, Poe, Kylo, or Rey are gonna meet their end before episode 9. Even so, I want to talk about this scene because from an in-universe perspective, this fight is totally lopsided and I really don't think Finn stands a chance. And if he were actually killed, I'm curious what effects that would have on the story. So today we're gonna explore exactly that, but first I want to explain why I think it's so likely that Phasma is going to defeat him in the first place. Please notice though that I'm saying that it's likely and not that it's guaranteed. There is of course a chance that Finn can pull off a victory, and I'll explain how that's possible as well, but first, Phasma. For a long time, the origins of the Chromium Giant were a total mystery until a novel revealing her mysterious past was released. I highly recommend this book for anyone who considers themselves a die-hard Star Wars fan, but fair warning, there are going to be spoilers for it in this video starting now. In the book, we learn that Phasma is from a post-apocalyptic-esque planet called Parnassos. It was there that she was part of a tribe with dozens of members, of which she was the most dangerous warrior. There wasn't a single moment of Phasma's upbringing that didn't involve struggling to survive. She fought tooth and nail to gain entry to the First Order and willingly sacrificed the lives of every single person she ever knew to ensure her own survival. For all intents and purposes, she is a psychopath. She has no morals, no remorse, no code of ethics. The only thing that matters to her is her own life. This includes the First Order. She cares more about herself than she does about them. On top of that, she also easily defeated the only person to ever share her rank in the First Order military, a man named Cardinal, who was responsible for training the FO's younger recruits when they were taken in, including Finn. And by the way, when she was fighting for survival on Parnassos, her weapon of choice was a spear, much like the one she's using in the fight against Finn. It's also worth noting that she's bigger, stronger, faster, and has chromium armor on, so she's about as comfortable as she could get in this scene. Meanwhile, Finn has no real advantages whatsoever. There's a possibility that he may have some unforeseen benefit from whatever the healing process was for the injury he sustained from Kylo Ren. I'm talking like cybernetic implant or whatever they did to Captain America. But there's also the huge disadvantage that whatever he knows about combat, he's learned from training programs Phasma has designed. He's probably picked up a sweet move or two during his journey with the Resistance, and maybe he could have a sort of Karate Kid type moment, but I really don't think he has much of a chance of surviving this encounter, asterisk, unless Phasma decides to not kill him and take him prisoner, or unless there's some third-party intervention like what happened on Takodana. I should also add that plot armor is a huge benefit to Finn in this scenario, but we're kind of disregarding it just so we can take a look at all the possible outcomes of this fight. However small his chances are, Finn does have a chance because this is a movie. But objectively and realistically, I think Phasma defeats him like every time. So if she does kill him, what happens next? Well, first off, the romance that began blossoming between him and Rey in The Force Awakens would cease to exist, leaving Rey open to potential suitors like Kylo or Poe Dameron. I think we can all agree that a romance with Poe seems pretty unlikely though, since the two haven't even met by the time episode 8 starts, and if we eliminate him, the only other obvious choice would be Kylo, otherwise we're dipping into side characters. We also have to acknowledge, of course, that Rey is a strong, independent woman. She was left on Jakku at a very young age and took care of herself pretty much her entire life. She doesn't necessarily need a romantic interest. That being said, since the theme of this movie/trilogy seems to be abandoning the Jedi Code, I think her having an emotional attachment like that would really drive the point home. Not to mention her transformation from being a strong, independent woman to a woman who's also comfortable with relying on other people makes for a pretty good story arc. So if Finn does die and Kylo and Rey get together, what would that mean? The fact that they're currently on opposing teams would mean that some sort of shift in allegiance would have to happen. Rey could join the dark side, Kylo could join the light side, or they could meet in the middle. If they stay on opposing teams, then there's not much of a chance chance for romance, and if that does end up happening, I'm predicting that at least one of them will not survive the trilogy. You heard it here first. If they do switch teams, I'm thinking it's going to be both of them moving towards the middle of the spectrum. Kylo has done some horrible things in his life, and he seems like the type of guy to carry that with him forever. And because of that, a complete turnaround back to the light seems pretty unlikely from where I'm standing. In episode 7, he says that he feels the call back towards the light. Even so, he knows he can't live by the Jedi code. So in response to that feeling, he takes another step towards the dark side, which only ends up leaving him feeling more lost and confused than ever before. Kylo's uncertainty in himself, in addition to Luke not wanting to teach Rey and his specifically saying it's time for the Jedi to end, is why I feel a neutral outcome is the most likely, with both of them fighting for the Resistance. And assuming they both survive the entire trilogy, which will probably end with the death of Snoke and destruction of the First Order, that leaves us with the final question of how does their story end? There's obviously numerous ways it could go. A totally legitimate possibility is that Rey decides she doesn't want to be romantic with anyone. If that is the case, I could definitely see a platonic relationship forming between her and Kylo. A sort of partnership where they establish their own academy and teach Force-sensitive individuals how to hone their abilities without the religious Jedi vs. Sith aspects. I actually find that to be a pretty likely outcome whether they're romantic or not. There is no way they're going to let all the Force teachings die. The cost of that would absolutely outweigh the benefits. And the academy would be the best and safest way to pass those teachings on. If Rey and Kylo are romantic though, I'm curious about the possibility of them having a child. On the one hand, it would almost be too perfect for Disney because that would be a crazy powerful character, and they would have a way to start the next trilogy up 10 years down the line if they choose to make one. On the other hand, that might almost be too cliche, and they also don't necessarily need the baby to show up before the end of this trilogy to introduce it in the next trilogy. In fact, if they didn't, I would argue that offers even better closure, so I doubt they will. Then again, maybe Finn won't die and the outcome will be something totally different than what I'm speculating. I'm just having some fun going down the rabbit hole with what little information we've got about Episode 8's story. That being said, I still feel like I'm onto something. Thank you all so much for watching this Star Wars Theory. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe and turn notifications on, and share this video with a fellow Star Wars fan. Also, make sure you check out my Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for regular updates about what I'm doing in between videos and the freshest Star Wars memes around. Until next time, my name is Jon Solo. May the Force be with you, and remember, Jon shot first.